Fantastic. All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 18th Filecoin Core Devs meeting on Thursday, 20th May. Thank you all for being here. Hope everyone's doing well. Yeah, we've got a fairly packed agenda today. We'll start with our usual updates. Then we have some stuff to discuss regarding V5 actors and Network V13, and why Zen Grant put in some items that he wanted to talk about. And then maybe some chats about a new FIP that's popped up, and also some conversations that have been happening around RPC interfaces and whether we kind of want to agree on a core subset of the RPC endpoints that that we then try to standardize, and whether that's something we want, how we'd want to go about it, kind of take the first steps in that conversation. But yeah, that's lots to talk about. Let's get started with updates from, let's hear from Fuhan, why don't we?
Hey everyone, thank you, Ayush. So unfortunately, we don't have many news regarding our work on stabilizing solution. We have definitely done a lot of progress. So our LP2P, well, recently we have tested the LP2P alone, introduced a couple of fixes. And now, after I think about 50 hours of working alone straight, LP2P doesn't show any memory consumption. Like, it's basically a straight line with deviation in a couple of megabytes. So it's at this point we can say that it's pretty much stable. We have also identified a sec fault related to some issues during the noise handshake. So this is something we have fixed. Regarding the phone itself, we are working on the last fix, which will definitely contribute to memory consumption, which is proper chipset index handling. So it will not be stored in memory completely, and part of it will be rotated to the on-disk storage, and other part will be stored in memory, and on demand it will be also loaded in memory. So this is quite a big fix we're currently working on. Actually, it is coded, and we are testing it at the moment. As for Fuhon itself, we have also identified a couple of sec faults, and well, we have introduced fixes. They don't seem to be repeating anymore, so hopefully they fixed. Our plan is to finish with the testing of index handling early next week, and restart the node for the longevity testing. Give it 1 to 2 weeks and see what will happen. If memory consumption will be stable again, we will be at a good point to announce publicly that the node is available and for everyone, and everyone is welcome to try it. So that's it for the updates on the Fuhan side. Any questions?
Not for me, no, that sounds fantastic. Anyone else have questions? I feel like you said the word, we found an issue and fixed an issue a lot, whether that's sec fault or memory leaks or other stuff. So that sounds really good. Cool. Let's hear from Venus, maybe. Stephen?
Yeah, and hello, everyone. Okay, and I think in last update, we mentioned that we had received the initial report of the security audit, and we had some issues reported and some suggestions. So we we took some time in last 2 weeks to fix the issues and to do some code change according to the suggestions. Now we had feedback all these fixes, and now is waiting for the the audit vendor feedback, and we're hoping to get the final report perhaps within 2 weeks. We will see if there is there are more issues or not. This is one thing. Another thing is that we are we set up a real distributed mining pool on the mainnet. Now, in this pool, we have 4 nodes, and we also announced we had this pool. We had this pool running, and we are asking more miners to join us to do this kind of test. This is only a test pool. It's not an official pool, and with this, we think we could perhaps set up another tool, another pool to get more smaller miners. So right now we are designing a plan, and we'll discuss with the Filecoin Foundation to see if we could have a do some free service for some small miners to incubate some miners and to enlarge the whole ecosystem. We hope to have some miners from different continents join us. This is about, and we are also working on some other plans. For example, to write down some RFPs to see if any other developers can join us to enhance our code. And another thing is that we're working on the Venus Market package, which is for the real data storage and retrieving. It's still in progress. We're thinking, if we could provide this on the mining pool level instead of for each miner. So as a data and storage and retrieval portal for all the miners on in this pool. So we think it's very interesting, but we are still in the design phase, and we'll see how it could work. Because we had discussed with some small miners, they are very interested by this. So I think that's all about what we have been have done in last 2 weeks. Any questions?
I mean, first off, that's great. You mentioned security audit stuff is happening, distributed mining pool stuff is happening, work on a markets module that can also be distributed is happening. That's a lot of trains moving at the same time, which is great. I think that idea of a markets module that sits on top of a pool instead of a single miner is very interesting. I'd be curious to see kind of your initial design of that, because that could be that could help a lot of smaller miners, service storage providers.
Yeah,
very cool. Any questions that anyone has? All right, let's jump into ChainSafe stuff. Forrest.
Hey, nice to see everybody. First of all, we have a new team member, which is awesome. So Lee has joined to help us out with like project management stuff. So I don't know if you want to say a quick word or anything, Lee. But yeah, it's really exciting to have a new person on the team.
Hi, this is Lee. I'm with the Forest team. And I guess I've met Ayush in our earlier meeting this week with Magic. So happy to be here.
So yeah, that's exciting. Team's been growing. But yeah, I guess our main focus has been, that now that we're doing the audit, just responding to anything that's coming up. It's been a little quieter than we expected. This is the first time we're doing an audit, which at first we were a little bit worried that maybe it shouldn't be so quiet, but turns out this is just how it is. So that's good. We've been addressing any issues that come up. And otherwise, we're sort of thinking, ahead towards like, once the audit is done, what do we want to do to be in a position to launch? And I think like that, some of those things are like becoming more full featured. So for example, like integrating storage and retrieval markets. And so Eric's been working hard on that, and we're still kind of finishing up the pay channel stuff on our side, and getting the Go fill markets ready to actually integrate. So that should be done pretty soon. Otherwise, we definitely want to be able to allow people to sync from the beginning from Genesis. And so we've been doing state migration work. So we have implemented the framework for state migration and this state migration for network version 12. And now we're going back and doing older ones so that, yeah, people can actually sync from Genesis or whatever. Otherwise, we're also adding instrumentation because as we move towards a more production client, we want to make sure that everything's performing well and give any miners or users the tools they need to really understand how Forest is performing. And so that's in the process of being done. So we're using Prometheus and Grafana to do metrics. And then finally, we also want to make Forest more usable. So we've been doing some work on the CLI, just kind of making sure all the important commands that we want people to be able to use are there. And yeah, that's about it at a high level. Eric, is there anything more detailed that you'd like to share?
No, nothing really. I'm sure we're going to talk about Actors version 5 when Zen gives an update. But yeah, I mean, we haven't started working on version 5 yet because there's a lot of other stuff that we want to do before we get into production. But we've started, scoping it out, and we're probably going to start within the next week or so. So yeah.
And there's also some work that we did on lowering RAM usage, improving block validation speed, and fixing a seg fault that kind of kept us from running it for super long. So I mean, if Maxine gets to brag about his seg fault, we get to do. So it's just really cool, like just to see it run for so long. And I've been running it for so long that I'm running out of storage. So like I have to like reboot my database right now. So if I want my Linux to not, well, just to work. So anyway, that's really cool. We're gonna have to invest in some cloud stuff at some point to like really just like see how like this works as an archive node. It's really exciting to see. I mean, I want to see like how big the write amplification factor is, for just how big the database gets, and how long it takes to sync. I don't know if anybody else is running Lotus in archive node capacity, or how large their say their database or their snapshot car file would be.
Yeah, we do have some infra running Lotus as a full archive node. I'm not sure what those numbers are, but we can definitely get them easily.
Yeah, absolutely. Really quick. Yeah, hit me up on Filecoin, or just like mention it in ecosystem dev or Lotus dev or something. Appreciate that.
Make a note of it here. Yeah, cool update. I'm especially happy to hear about the state migration stuff, because yeah, that allows you to sync from Genesis, and also importantly, next time we have a new Actors version and there's a migration, y'all can stay seamlessly instead of having a little break over there. So very cool, very cool. Glad to hear audit stuff is going well, and that nothing terrifying has been discovered so far. I'm hoping. Cool. Jennifer, could you give us a quick update on like Lotus 1.9 and such?
Yeah, of course. So Lotus has just released version 1.9.0, which introduces like various improvements like to the seeding, mining, and deal making process. Highlights are we integrated like proof V701 and market V125. And now GPU2 is now enabled by default in Lotus, and which results in like way faster winning post PC2 and C2 computation. And we heard from some like community members that their PC2 computation time was even like halved, which was great news. And now another thing that I want to highlight is Lotus now offers like pre-built binaries in the release assets, which has been a long asking from the community. So if anyone wants to like use it, check it out. The other thing is the Lotus team is of course now working on the next release, which will be 1.10 to support the network 13 hyperdrive upgrade with Actor V5. I think things are moving along, and we're targeting to release a RC next week, hopefully, and to get the code out in the community's hand and having the miners to test in the calibration net as soon as possible, because it's going to be a huge change and a lot of like configuration that like miners need to tweak about. So, and we would love to receive feedbacks from the miners and get ready for the actual upgrade before then. And in parallel, like to everything with the next network upgrade, we're also working on re-architecturing the miner runtime. So as you may know, since there are more like demand in the network, like deal making and everything, Lotus miner doesn't necessarily handle that really well. Like when a deal is incoming, at the same time, a winning post and the window post is computing, the process like may impact each other. So what we are trying to do is segregating the market functionality so that it can run in a separate physical process from the storage and block mining. And we believe this will improve the robustness and resilience of the miner deployment, and will unlock, the new heights of like scalability of the storage and retrieval markets. So I'm super excited about that. Yeah.
I have a question for that, because I mean, I don't know about the Fuhan team, but for us, obviously, we don't have the markets module, and that's what basically we created a Go Fill Markets interface like last year, and that's kind of what we're updating to get working. So if you're separating the markets module from the Lotus daemon, what's the interface going to look like? Is there like a page where like that sums up kind of the changes? Because it kind of just seems like we don't have to do this interface work anymore. We just have to implement some RPC endpoints or something like that. Yeah, is there a page for this?
I'm gonna link the project proposal in the link so like you can review, but like from my point of view, it's more about separating the process out of Lotus miner, because right now it's embedded, everything is embedded in the Lotus miner, but we want to separate process out of that. It's like you have seeding workers in Lotus miner, but you don't have one worker for like deal making. I think that's the general idea, but like you should feel free to correct me if I'm, wrong.
Yeah, I actually don't have a lot of insight into this, so I'm not sure what the answer to Eric's question is. The information may be in this proposal here. If not, we have to see. It's a little bit of a work in progress right now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, actually, I remember seeing this diagram before at the Retrieval Market Summit. I'll probably reach out to Raul. I think he was the one who's talking about this. So yeah, I'll message him, see what's up.
Sounds good. Cool. Yeah, there's a couple more things that we've been doing specifically on kind of V5 actors and V13, but we'll get to those in a second because that'll kind of segue into our next topic of conversation. But before that, I wanted to see if the Filecoin Foundation or the community side of things, if there were updates we wanted to share.
Yeah, so we are hoping to be able to share more publicly about a mining working group that is being stood up. And so I think there are maybe one or two folks on this call that are involved in that. I think besides that, we are also hiring rapidly for a number of roles. And so if you guys know great people in your network, or if you personally have interest to join us, the foundation, definitely check out our jobs where I'll put it in the chat. And then it's also on our website under our career section. So that's it.
From the community side of the things, in case you don't know, we are starting to accept application for the second round of the MinerX Fellowship Program, which has been running for the past few months, and we see like great outcome of this program, which we have like constant and close feedback loop with miners to improve our protocol and also like the Lotus software. So that's why we're like rolling out another program, and application is open till Monday UTC 00 AM, I believe. So if you are interested in that, check out our like announcement in the Filecoin Slack, and I'm looking forward to see all your applications. Yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah, can you quickly drop a link to where one can apply or get more info? I'll put it in the notes of the meeting. But yeah, that's fantastic. Also, quickly on kind of the community side of things, I think there's a blog post coming soon that talks about the hyperdrive upgrade, V13, network V13 and V5 actors. So be excited for that too. So yeah, quickly on on kind of the ongoing implementation work for that, Zen Grand White will kind of provide a lot of the info there. But a couple of quick things to flag. On the core Lotus side of things, we've been working on integrating FIPS 13 and 8, so actually using pre-commit batching and proof aggregation in the Lotus miner. That work is basically done. We're testing right now. We also finally introduced the ability to create Genesis files for any actors version. So we're planning on using that to start an interop net, probably directly from V5 actors, because I think either V4 or V5 actors, depending on what will be more useful. I also want to quickly introduce Alexander Wade, Alex Wade, who's kind of been, part of the Filecoin world for a while now, usually auditing things, trying to find security issues, and generally making sure things are good. He's been doing some work for the past couple of weeks now, and will be for the next several months. Just making sure Filecoin is secure. Alex, I don't know if you want to quickly introduce yourself.
Hello, nice to meet everyone. I'm from Consensus Diligence, and I've been working with the Filecoin team for the past 6 months or so. And I'm looking forward to helping prep you guys for the V5 release for actors.
Fantastic. Yeah, thanks for joining, Alex. Okay. So I think that was a good time to jump into the immediate V5 actor stuff. Zen, I don't know if I know you put some stuff in the agenda. Do you want to take over?
Yeah, totally. So I guess at a high level, to make sure we're all on the same page, V5 actors and spec actors is roughly implementation complete. FIPS 13 and 8, the bulk of the work is done. There's just some parameter setting, finalization, some final gas measurement too. And then there's some last mile bug fixes and just release maintenance stuff to do. So I have a few call outs about parameters that will be changing or might be changing. A lot of this is not fully firm. I just wanted to call out how far certain parameters might stretch in case it causes concern, or if someone has thoughts on it. So I left in the TPM issue, I left 4 changes. I'll go over them briefly now. I'll also repost this in Slack to make sure that everyone has time to look into it. Just in brief, so currently, in the current FIP, we have the proof commit aggregate max being 204, and we're thinking we might bump that up either to 400 or so, or 800 or so. In order to unlock small miners with a smaller ceiling rate, to get these batch sizes in, we're also thinking of increasing the max proof commit duration, so the time between pre-commit and proof commit before pre-commits expire, up to a month. So that those kind of go together. And then another similar change, we're thinking of increasing the max pre-commit batch size from 32 to something like 64 or 128. And this all just allows better gas savings for miners that are able to increase the commits that they send up on chain. And then finally, something to call out is there's some new behavior on expiring pre-commits in order to make error handling a little bit better, a little bit less damaging. So now we're keeping pre-commits on chain for another 8 hours after they expire, so that proofs which require these pre-commits as public inputs will be able to still verify, even though the pre-commits that have expired won't actually be proven. The rest of the batch won't be spoiled by a few pre-commits expiring up to 8 hours. So if that was quick, we can talk more on Slack. Heads up on those things. I don't expect any of this to be controversial. I just wanted to follow up here. I'm also planning to update FIPS 13 and 8 with the new changes in the near future. So that's that. I guess I'll give space for any questions or discussion if anyone has anything to say before moving on to the next thing I wanted to bring up.
Sounds good. Yeah, adding those changes to the FIPS themselves sounds good. That way we can get community feedback to see how people feel about these numbers, because this is very much a community-driven thing. Yeah, does anyone have any questions for Zach?
Okay, awesome.
All right.
The next thing is it shouldn't be a big deal. Just wanted to call out to the Forest team since you have mentioned a difficulty, understandably so, with updating Hampton AMP dependencies. We are planning to update the Specs Actors Hampton AMP dependencies with non-consensus breaking changes. So if you have to make any changes to your implementation, then something has gone horribly wrong and we would back out of it. But just a heads up, I don't want you to see us merging updates to those dependencies and start getting concerned that you have to do a lot of work. We're just adding diffing behavior for some of the infra, the purposes of some teams doing infra stuff on top of Lotus. So we'd like to add that directly into actors. Again, not consensus breaking, so it shouldn't cause any work for you, just a heads up.
Cool, yeah, that's good to know. Thank you. Yeah, because if I saw like a HAMP upgrade, I would have probably just freaked out.
Exactly.
Sounds good. All right. Yeah. Who has questions about V5 actors, whether it's impulse stuff or timeline stuff? How are people feeling? Eric, I know you said you wanted to bring up, wanted to talk more about it. Anything
Sorry, about what?
Just
Timeline?
V5. Yeah, hyperdrive and V5 actors.
Yeah, well, I mean, we haven't settled on a date yet, but I mean, it's the 20th right now, and we're targeting. I know we were originally targeting mid-June, but I think last time I spoke to you, you said you wanted to push it earlier. I don't know if that's very realistic for us, but yeah, I mean, yeah, mid-June probably sounds a little bit better for us.
So that's still roughly what we're looking at. Honestly, I think a lot of it will come down to, at least from my perspective, kind of like Lotus perspective, will come down to how the RC testing goes, like kind of starting next week. If things look smooth, if the test networks look good, and miners that start experimenting with the RC don't have too much of a problem with it, then we can potentially move from mid-June, from third week of June to maybe first or second week of June. It won't be moving by much more than that. But I think that's kind of where I'm at. Would an upgrade date, let's say around June, I don't know, 7th work? Because Jennifer did flag that a good chunk of China or East Asia will be going on holidays for a little bit, June 12th or so. So if we are moving it up, it would have to be kind of before that, ideally. So yeah, how do people feel?
I mean, I don't know how much of a say we have in this, but like I don't see an issue with pushing it after the holidays. It's like I'm not sure what kind of tangible benefit that these 2 weeks of not upgrading would do. Like the thing is, for us, it's really hard to make a commitment because the audit has been so silent, and it's like the process, I think, is like, within a week from now, we're just going to get dropped with a preliminary report with like a bunch of things that we need to fix. And it's like, we don't really have a good idea of what kind of changes we're going to have to make. It's like really hard to make a time commitment, but I mean, June 7th does seem early.
Sure.
A little bit of a squeeze for us, maybe even more than a little bit. But yeah.
Got it. How do the other implementations feel?
For us, it's pretty much the same. We are still aiming to use Shigo adaptation, so not cover us this time.
Yep, makes sense. And Venus, I assume you all are fairly close to go, given that you use Specs Actors directly.
Yeah. Okay. I think I don't think there are much work for Venus to do, because we just integrate the Specs Actor package and do some changes on Venus and chain synchro accordingly. So I think it's okay. We just need, for example, 1 or 2 days after the release of Lotus, and we also plan to join the calibration test, to make sure that we could make it on time.
Yep, sounds good. Yeah. Obviously, want to acknowledge that there's much more work involved for the Forest team because they're actively re-implementing actors, and which is something we want, and so we don't want that to wind up becoming, a punishment. But yeah, it's a group decision that we'll make. We don't have to make it right now, so we'll kind of see how things shape up next week and kind of discuss async and Slack, and try to pick a timeline. And sorry to answer your question, Eric, like, you're right in that not that much is gained within 2 weeks, honestly. And maybe this is just a personal thing. It's like we have been like, these flips have been around forever, and they've kind of been sitting around forever. And so I'd like to see them go live in the network because they do like substantially improve things basically immediately. So that's basically the motivation there. And obviously the community has been waiting for them for a while, and Steph kept jumping the queue ahead of them. So yeah, it'll be good to get them live, but 2 weeks one way or the other does not change anything too materially.
And my thoughts is like, if they've been waiting for half a year, they can wait another 2 weeks.
Fair enough. Watch us still be having this conversation in December because of that. That was a joke. Yeah, we'll see how stuff goes next week and agree on a timeline. Probably just async and Slack. But
yeah, that'd be good because like I feel like in like another week or so, like I think we can have a better idea of like what we can commit to. So yeah.
Cool. Sounds good. Yeah, and obviously interrupt.net and test vectors are kind of ongoing efforts, which I'm assuming will help with a lot of that testing. So you can get some confidence that way too. Cool. Anything else on the hyperdrive discussion, whether that's implementation, community stuff? Any questions? Okay, sounds good. Can always take additional questions, I think. I want to jump to FIP 15 real quick. This is one that the discussion had been around forever. We only actually created this FIP. Let me drop the link in chat. We only actually created the FIP or like moved the FIP along recently. But basically, it's a very simple proposal, which is to revert FIP 9, which was the kind of stopgap that we introduced back in December to exempt successful window post messages from the base fee burn. That was always supposed to be a temporary thing while we worked on better solutions. We since have 3 better solutions: optimistic window post, and now it's outlined in the FIP. But yeah, what are we thinking? Do we feel like with optimistic window post, FIPs 13 and 8, all of which should be leading to an overall reduction in base fee, now is a good time to undo this thing, or would we want to wait longer? It's not a complicated implementation thing, obviously. So it's just is now the right time, or do we think we should wait a bit longer? Anyone have opinions? Yeah, honestly, I've kind of been feeling the same way of I don't know how to. There's never going to be like something that's we're pressing to do. So it's kind of like maybe we do it now.
I mean, the change is quite straightforward, if I recall correctly, to add the skipping of the gas for that. So I mean, undoing it is probably just another if statement. But yeah, I mean, like in terms of like other than that, like it seems pretty uncontroversial either way.
Yes, yeah, the change, I think, at least in the Lotus code, it basically goes, if you're past this network, don't charge for the base fee burn here. That'll change to if you're past this network but before this network. So it's literally a net 0 lines of code aside from testing. One of the motivations here that I should mention is right now, Steb Alien, who I don't think is on this call, was doing some research and noticed that miners seem to not be packing all of their partitions into a single post message sometimes, or some miners appear to be doing that. So like, if you can prove 5 partitions in one post message, they're choosing to instead set 5 separate submit post messages just to avoid a all or nothing failure case where, if you're trying to do it all in one post and they fail, then all 5 partitions are affected. That's, or how many ever partitions. that's fine, but that is from a network like chain capacity perspective, that's not ideal. Because obviously, if something can happen in one message, that's better from a chain capacity perspective. Obviously, people are more willing to do it right now because window post messages are extremely cheap because you pay nothing for the base fee. So there's a little bit of motivation from there, but again, it's not pressing.
Yeah, but is anybody actually like manually submitting posts? It's like it's all done by the mining software. Like I've never like had to submit a post like manually.
I think people have customized mining software. So like
yeah,
the
forget
Lotus
about that.
Yeah, the Lotus miner definitely will pack them all into a single message. But I think people who want to kind of take a more have a lower risk tolerance, I guess, choose to send individual post messages. Which again, they can continue to do so once if after we undo the slip as well, if they want to. But right now it's kind of like artificially cheap to do so. Yeah, I like I said, I think no one kind of has super strong feelings about this. Do we want to say that we'll ship FIP9 as part of V5 actors or V13, the V13 upgrade rather, because it's not even an actors change? Or at least do we have any objections to it? And maybe then we can kind of get community feedback and make a decision based on that. Okay, sounds good. Cool. Yeah, we'll see. We'll try to get some community input on it and make a decision one way or the other. Again, it's not a huge decision that we're making, I think, at least from an implementation perspective. And yeah, Jennifer adds some motivation in chat. I will add that to our notes. All right, the last thing that I had in the agenda, is there anything that anyone else wanted to bring up? By the way, I did have one last agenda item, but if people have more interesting things or more pressing things, we can discuss them. Okay, cool. Last item. So this is a conversation that a question that's come up a couple times in like stray conversations around RPC standardization, and again came up in a conversation with Eric from ChainSafe earlier this week. Eric, honestly, do you want to kind of lead this one and kind of talk about the background and what we like to propose?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so since we're building pretty much just a daemon currently. I mean, we're probably going to start building a bunch of the other stuff too, but currently we're building the daemon, so that means we rely on like the Lotus miner and the Lotus markets and stuff like that, and obviously those things communicate over JSON RPC. The issue with that is that there's no like real good change log for changes in the JSON RPC, so they just kind of like change, and it just changes like under our feet, and like one day like things just stop working. And so I guess what I'm proposing is that we standardize like a core part of the JSON RPC interfaces so that we still have composability between all the different pieces of software. And in addition to that, it's like if we don't start doing something like this, like standardizing at least like a core part, because like, as an implementation, you can start implementing other JSON RPC methods too, but like we won't consider that as like a core part of like the Filecoin offering. Like the importance for that is like, people who are going to start building like these library wrappers around JSON RPC and building dApps. So like libraries like something like, Web3.js on Ethereum, like things like that are going to start emerging soon as more and more like people start building dApps. And it's like, if you can't use this library against like all the different implementations, like you're going to break a lot of dApps. And so that's kind of like the motivation behind it, is like, I'm not advocating for like slowing down like changes to the interfaces, but it's like we should have like a version like standard that is kind of like discussed and agreed upon by everybody, or not everybody, but like people who are implementing like the stuff, like just relevant stakeholders, I guess. And so yeah, yeah, something like all the other blockchains have, just like a standardized core JSON RPC offering that is consistent amongst all the different implementations.
Yes, this is interesting because there's kind of two threads for that, to what you just said, I think, where number one is, yeah, Lotus is working on its V1 API, which we've wanted to do for a while. And obviously, that's a change that will impact everyone who uses Lotus, basically. So right now, the V0 API is still fully supported and is the default. And so, whereas the V1 API, which is under development, is like highly unstable. but internal components of Lotus, such as the markets module and the miner and so on, have already switched to the V1 API, which we thought was fine to do because we are actively maintaining those things. But that led to issues because those subcomponents are used because the Lotus miner is not only used by Lotus, basically. And that was kind of a bit of an oversight, or honestly a learning for us, that we can't make that change, kind of assuming that it won't impact anyone else. We thought it was only the fully external interface that matters. And so I think, so at the very least, we now know to be mindful of that, and to at least gate the changes better and announce it and so on, because we thought no one would care. And then kind of the second, and that's an easier problem to solve potentially, so just be a little more careful, slow down a little bit with those changes. The second problem, or the second thread, is around this idea that people will want all implementations of Filecoin to agree on some, to ideally agree on some standardized RPC interface. It's not consensus critical in the way that we agree on the protocol, but it'll just be useful for a lot of use cases. And what do people think about that? Do people agree with that idea?
Yeah, from Fuhan's side, I can say that we definitely agree. This is something, well, the changes in the API is something that we have also faced and had to resolve. And it is clear, well, we had understood from the very beginning that we will have to comply to Lotus API both from miner side and from the node side, be compatible with for components to be compatible and interexchangeable. So basically for the same reasons Eric described. So I completely agree with the idea.
Gotcha. Yeah, there's obviously the question of what we wind up standardizing and what that looks like, because honestly I don't think we're there yet. We don't have a good enough set of endpoints yet, which is why it's under development. But are we generally in agreement that that even if the what isn't answered, the should be question is answered as answer yes? All right, sounds good. So at the very least, kind of next steps will be the V1 API work that Lotus is doing. We'll externalize a lot more because, again, we were kind of keeping this in-house, thinking of it as only something we need to talk about. So we'll externalize that to the core devs here, and also to the broader community, and kind of get their input. And hopefully within a few months, we're in a place where we're happy enough with where the V1 API is, that some subset of that can kind of become standardized. And obviously, we can change the Lotus V1 API to match better stuff that the other implementations have as well, and kind of be a give and take.
Yeah, and I mean, just to be super clear, it's I know we all want to move super fast and all, and that's cool. It's just if we're gonna do that, we just have to be very communicative with each other. Because I mean, generally, I don't really have opinions on what the interfaces should look like or anything. It's just we need to know so we can implement it.
Yep.
And then all making it pretty and all that stuff can come later when we actually standardize it. But before we standardize it, it's just really good to just have a place where we can talk about it and just communicate about it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Gotcha. More of that info happening async and Slack will be good. Also, more of those updates happening in these calls, I think, will be useful. I'll make a note of both those things. All right. And any other questions? It's been a meaty meeting. Talked about a lot. Any other points of top discussion or questions?
I have a small question. Any news regarding the interopnet? Do you have any news?
Sorry, any news about it? Yeah, so I finally opened a PR in Lotus that allows us to start to create Genesis files from any actors versions. So with that, we'll be able to launch interopnet basically next week, with starting from any actor version. And now this is what I wanted to quickly touch on. Would we prefer for that to start from V4 or V5? Would we prefer to start from V4, migrate to V5, and then run with V5 onwards, or just start directly from V5, and so we can kind of test from Genesis onwards?
Well,
I think it makes. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So I don't think it's really important for us at this point. So we can go either way. What do you think, Eric?
yeah, I mean, my thoughts was, I don't think it's like super important, but it would be kind of nice to start from V4 now that I think all of us have state migration functionality, and it's like one extra thing to test that, you know, that we can be a little bit more sure about. Although, like, I guess, like, if you're starting from V4 and migrating after like 10 epochs, there won't be like much state to migrate anyways. But yeah, so I guess it doesn't really matter.
This is the craziest thing I've ever.
Sounds good. Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see what. Yeah, if we're not that interested in testing the migration itself, then maybe we just start from V5 directly, so that we get to it right away. We'll see. It's not the biggest decision to make, it sounds like, given that you all now support migrations. Cool. Yeah. So hopefully that should come next week to answer your question, Maxim. Anything else?
Oh, I have one other thing, just for us specifically, since we're doing the state migration stuff, but it'd be nice if there's a way for us to get like state migration benchmarks, I guess. Like we're running these state migrations, they're taking some time, but we have no idea if it's like performant enough relative to the other clients, like how long these things should take. So it'd be kind of cool to see some numbers that Lotus has crunched out before, just to see if our migrations are good enough.
Yeah, seems reasonable. Zen, do you have those readily available?
They could be somewhat readily pulled back. Yeah, it shouldn't be too much trouble.
Sounds good.
Yeah, cool. I feel like it'd be easy for us to do it if we had like archival Lotus nodes, but those are, you know, rare.
Those are not easy to do. I also wonder, this is just a stray thought, Zen, but do you think Ent will be useful for the external implementations to use as well to validate some of their stuff?
Yeah, it certainly could be. I could link you, Eric. We have a tool that uses spec factors directly on a Lotus data store. But it could be useful.
Basically does a lot of like sanity checking around migrations and just state trees in general. All right, let's wrap up there. If you don't have any other questions, we're exactly at time. Cool. Have a good day, everyone. Bye.
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 Yeah.
Everyone.
Yeah.